My cousin mocked me for being single and said her husband was dream material. So I sent her the screenshots he messaged me at 2 a.m. I'm 26F. Claire is 28, my cousin, and the one person in the family whose life everyone gushes over. She posts perfect photos. She hosts perfect dinners, and she tells anyone who'll listen how much dream material her husband is. For years, the family treated them like a little packaged success story. If I said anything about being off the dating carousel, Claire's face would bend into that winning, slightly condescending smile, and she'd say, loud enough for everyone, don't be bitter, M. Someone good will come along when you stop looking. As if single equals bitter equals ungrateful, spaced out across Sunday roast and Aunt June's mash. So when Mark, someone I've known since he was that annoying college cousin, slid into my DMs at 2:12 a.m. with a message that said, I can't stop thinking about how you laugh. Wish I could see you RN. My chest locked. He followed with, don't tell Claire. Promise me. The next messages were worse. Small put-downs of Claire, an insistence that he and I had a connection that was different. It was not a drunk slip. It was a tone you use when you've rehearsed the narrative in your head for a long time. I screenshot. I saved. I counted the dates. There were earlier timestamps buried like landmines, a thread from 3 months prior, a sync of jokes that read like a private shorthand. When I scrolled farther back, I found an exchange that named a hotel and a floor, a night Claire had said he was at an overnight conference. I felt ridiculous and small and furious, all at once. I didn't confront Mark. I didn't want him to delete anything. I didn't confront Claire. Not yet. For one thing, I wanted to be sure. For another, I wanted to watch what people do when you give them an opportunity to be honest. People rarely choose honesty when there's a shiny story to uphold. A week later, Claire posted another set of perfect photos. The cut of the dress, the caption about appreciating the good things, the hashtaging like a mantra. At the bottom, someone left a comment. You're so lucky to have Mark. Dream husband. It was the same chorus I'd heard 1,000 times at family things. And I'd been the butt of those jokes. You should meet Mark's friend. When Claire calls you bitter, just laugh. They made me the cautionary tale for being single while applauding a man who apparently had a secret file on his side. I held the screenshots in my phone like contraband. For a few days, I thought about the adult options. Call him out privately, expose it to Claire, tell her parents, tell no one, and walk away. All of them felt like compromises of some kind. If I went private, they'd probably gaslight me. You're misreading a message, and friends would say I provoked it. If I went public, I'd look like the person who performs outrage for attention. And all this would happen while Claire spun her speech about marriage being rare and beautiful. Then Claire did the thing she always did in front of family. At a mid-sized reunion for Table's Aunt June's trifle, she stood up and made a little toast about gratitude. She named Mark explicitly. I'm so grateful for my dream man, she said, and the whole table smiled and nodded, and someone clinked a glass. The warmth was performative and perfect. I had the screenshots ready, backed up in 3 places, printed a couple of pages just in case my phone died, and I tucked them in my clutch like a cold stone. When she finished, and everyone complimented her, I stood. No props, no microphone, nothing dramatic. I walked over to her table and put my clutch on the table. Claire's smile tightened like a rubber band. What are you doing? She whispered when she saw me moving. The family quieted. I laid 2 printed screenshots where everyone could see them, right in front of her salad plate. No drama in my voice. I said, read them, please. Silence is a powerful thing at family dinner. A few people blinked like they'd been woken. One of the cousins laughed at first, then coughed and stopped laughing. Claire paled. Mark's head snapped up from across the table like he'd been shot. For a sliver of a second, the room was a photograph in mid-develop. People frozen between the thing they knew and the thing they were seeing. She grabbed the paper as if it were hot. What is this? She asked, voice shaking. Her hand trembled. This was her dream life. She'd built an identity around it. Her husband sat there with a face I hadn't seen before. Not the charming Mark I'd grown up with, but a smaller man who was squirming because the script had been torn. Someone, my aunt, who always says what she thinks, read the first line and then said softly, is that? The screenshot had the 2:12 a.m. timestamp and Mark's name. Anyone with a phone could see what I had. No filters, no caption edits, just words. Mark tried the old tactics immediately. It's out of context, he said. I was joking. You're making something out of nothing. He jumped up, voice rising, and the reflexive defenders, people who'd known him as the nice guy who always brought pie, started lining up to protect him. You can't do this, one cousin hissed. You don't know the whole story. They still wanted their tidy narrative. Claire did the defensive thing I'd seen on a dozen glossy posts. Disbelief? then anger, then a script about how I was trying to ruin things because you're single and bitter. She pointed at me. You're jealous, she said loudly. The whole table half expected them to rally around her. That's when I did the small, surgical thing I'd planned. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I pulled out my phone, opened the timestamps on the screenshots, and showed the thread line by line. I had the hotel date, the weekend he'd attended a conference, the casual jokes about meeting by the stairs. I clicked through to show the earlier exchange where he'd asked her to keep it quiet, and even the little notes where he mocked Claire's patience. I didn't embellish. I let the messages speak. You could feel the math of people recalculating. Friends who'd been ready to scoff looked down at their hands. Claire's mother looked like she'd been punched. Mark's face lost color. He stuttered and looked for an escape route. There wasn't one in that dining room. Then something unexpected happened. Mark's phone buzzed. He grabbed it, and his face tightened like someone trying to hide a guilty laugh. He held it up in a weak attempt at a counterattack. The classic, this is a setup play. But the notification preview was from another woman and read, can't wait for tonight. The phone dropped onto the table like a confession. Claire broke. Not dramatic Hollywood collapse. Something quieter. She pushed the chair back, the sound heavy, and left the table. She screamed, how could you? At me as she went. Not the betrayal scream you expect, but the wounded, bewildered kind. I didn't answer. I stayed where I was until she was in the kitchen, sobbing to someone on the phone. People didn't know how to behave. It's a strange social animal that wants to restore order. A cousin muttered that I'd gone too far. Another cousin said, she brought this on herself. The argument started, but the till had changed. People couldn't put the original perfect picture back on the wall. There were too many fingerprints. Update, 2 days later. Claire's version spread fast. She said I'd ambushed her, made a spectacle, and humiliated her in front of family. Mark posted an apologetic but vague statement on his socials that sounded like damage control, misunderstandings, stress, the usual. A group of family members texted me furious. One aunt demanded I apologize. But the quiet aftermath is where truth settles. 2 women messaged me privately that they'd had odd late-night texts from Mark and had brushed them off. One of them sent me a screenshot of a message where Mark suggested meeting up, away from prying eyes. It wasn't my fault the thread had been wider than one night. The house of cards was wobbling. My sister sent flowers and said, you did the right thing. You gave Claire facts she needed. She came by with casserole and sat on the couch with me while the rest of the family debated like a parliament over brunch. I slept badly, but felt less hollow. The screenshots were no longer just mine. They were part of a pattern a few people had suspected. Update, 3 weeks later. The fallout rearranged the usual social calendar. Claire moved out of their house for a short while. Mark ended up staying with a friend, a couple who'd always been close to them, the kind of people who host perfect dinner parties, quietly uninvited them from a fundraiser when the organizers heard murmurs. The family fractured into 1,000 micro-alliances. Some people chose Claire because she'd performed victimhood. Others chose the evidence. Claire confronted me once, a week after the dinner, in front of my mother. Why did you do it? She asked, eyes hollow. You could have told me. We could have fixed this. I answered. You could have asked me to be honest, Claire. You didn't. She told me I'd broken the family. I told her the family already had fractures, and she chose not to see them. She said we'd been ruined. I said we were simply honest. That wasn't comforting to her, but it was true. Whatever the moral pylons, here's the practical part. Mark stopped being the picture-perfect husband the family showed off. People asked him to be accountable. Claire got quiet and stopped telling people what to do. She's been working with a counselor. I didn't set out to destroy anyone's life. I set out to stop being the butt of the joke and to stop complicit silence about how men behave when they assume no one will look. It's ugly and messy and people are hurting, but there's a difference between cruel exposure and necessary truth. Final update, 2 months later. Time did the thing it always does. The gossip thinned. The family still has its groups and its dinners. They're just smaller and a little more honest. Claire and Mark tried to reconcile for a week, then realized the public trust was gone. They're separated now. They text occasionally about logistics and the kids they're trying to protect. My relationship with Claire is fractured. It might heal, it might not. I don't want to celebrate their pain. I wanted truth. The family learned a lesson about what perfect often hides. No one calls me jealous any longer. Some call me blunt or unkind. Others call me someone who refused to be silent when a story was asked to carry more than it could bear. I still go to the same reunions, but I sit with people who say the quiet things and keep the noisy moralizing at bay. If I regret it? Not really. I regret the pain, the way children saw grown people fall apart, and the way Claire was wounded. But I don't regret that I kept receipts instead of keeping quiet. There are moments where preserving your dignity means doing the thing that will make the room uncomfortable. That was one of them. That's the end.